Before we start today's video, I just want to take another moment to thank those that donated to the channel for this month. And you guys make truly what I do possible by offering the donation to this channel. So again, I can't thank you guys enough for your support. If you do want to support this channel, make sure to check out the link in the description, which will take you to the channel's donation page. Thanks again to those that supported us for China Insider this month. Another day, another Chinese nationalist influencer coming up with a new way to make themselves look like the biggest jokes around the world. And this time by doing the most disgusting thing too. This time, a blogger named Ironhead pees on the monument at the Yasukuni Shrine, which is in Japan. And he also writes the word toilet on there too. You could say it was a pee tantrum. All the while, he's wearing a Red Bull F1 jersey. I'm so mad about that. Red Bull is like my favorite team. Now, this influencer Ironhead is the latest in the series of Japan-hating influencers to make content and get views inside China. So what they do in Japan, even though to the rest of us seems like embarrassment and shameful, well, that's what makes them the money and the traffic in China. Remember, there was the guy named Oilhead. He basically got mad over the Fukushima water release and started to get mad at these restaurants. You can go check out the video, which I'll put the link here to understand what the heck Oilhead was doing. And now you have Ironhead. What is with all these heads doing this now? For the same reason, he's allegedly protesting the Japanese water release. On May 31st local time, the video here shows him speaking English actually, and this is done during the day. He says he's going to do something. So come nighttime, we see that, or perhaps this is the early morning of June 1st, he has now peed on the monument, and then also he's written the word toilet. Now, Chinese nationalistic influencers refer to the Yasukuni Shrine as Yasukuni Toilet, and so to them, this is a public urinal, basically. And apparently the best way to get back at Japan for what they allegedly did is to just pee in public. And then right after he escapes back to China, and when he got back to Shanghai, he released a video saying that he had done this. But at this point, the Japanese police are already, of course, searching for him, but he's back in China. And the subsequent video he released suggests that he has safely returned to the motherland, as if he's some triumphant hero who has fought on the battlefield. He also made a video here, basically looks like his friends took him out to dinner after he had done the stuff in Japan. And a Japanese man has actually put out a bounty for him for 64,000 US dollars equivalent, or 500,000 yen. Now, Ironhead is an influencer that was known for his anti-counterfeit products in China, and this was before he was found out that actually he had been indicted and sent to prison for running a casino and also illegal detainment, which racked him up a total of 3.5 years in jail. And also during his time as an anti-counterfeit influencer, he self-exposed that he hired prostitutes a while ago. And so this guy is not some, this righteous guy who just does everything for the sake of betterment of society. He is in fact just somebody who looks at where the money is and tries to find opportunities like getting views and tractions from those topics. And so since he exposed himself for hiring escorts, he's been banned on many of the Chinese social platforms like Weibo. And Ironhead decided that the best way is to sell the nationalistic influencer route to get him back on the internet. So yeah, we've gotten to the point where peeing equals nationalistic viewership. And in particular, Yasukuni Shrine is a great way to do that. There was another influencer who, according to this Twitter user with his screenshots and photos, did the same thing with a video trying to expose the crimes of the Japanese during World War II, of course. But this one, the influencer hired background actors, this whole cast, for about 20 people, paying them 3,000 yen an hour, which is about 19 US dollars an hour. And so the ex-user's friend found a part-time job on a Chinese job search platform, and he only knew that he was working in a group as a background cast, so there's no spoken dialogue or anything like that, and he was going to be paid 3,000 yen for an hour. Now, like I said, nearly 20 people participated in the shoot, and the director from the beginning to the end never disclosed what type of content they were doing, but they were just told to act as if they were people from Japan. And the influencers then would do the interview on camera to show that these people were shocked at apparently, what had been committed. And after about an hour, the shoot was wrapped up and all these people were sent home, and the video got really popular in China. Hey, at least they didn't have to pee in public. Now, as a Chinese person, or you might have even seen this, but it's very common, there's a public urination and defecation problem at home and abroad. Now, this picture here, I'm going to have to censor every single one of them because YouTube clearly doesn't like this type of stuff. this is a country where Confucius and many of the moral thinkers and scholars originated from. This is China we're talking about, where its history has been built on traditions and virtue, and the moral ethics of being a human has now been destroyed, of course, after the Cultural Revolution, especially with the Communist Party involved. And so people today in China, they don't have a moral boundary. They're not bound by any sort of religious teachings, to say the least. And so there's really no restrictions on what they do. And apparently it just happens that public defecation and urination is where people decided to go. Yes, yes, of course. I also know that the history of World War II, and it's just the contemporary side of the relationship between Japan and China, and it dates much earlier than just World War II. But the problem, right? You talk about the Nanking Massacre, you talk about all of the issues here. We understand that that's part of history. But today's generation of people in China are simply using those historical events to justify their nationalistic behaviors, and some of them are downright low. And does that really mean that Chinese people need to vandalize property in Japan in order for them to get back at Japan for what they did in the past? Now, outside of human waste, there's also spit battling. That's a huge problem. Serpent ZA has done a video on this. Two people, instead of using their fists to talk it out, they use spit, and they just spit on each other. It's quite gross, actually. And I really question, what happened to civility in China? It's long gone, of course. But it wasn't even like this back in like the 80s and the 70s, and it just rapidly deteriorated. Before we continue, here's a great product to gift to your loved ones. This is the German brand Dermaroller face mask with intense hyaluronic acid. It's great for repairing your skin with intense hydration and special properties for anti-aging and reducing fine lines. Now, this product is on sale at Blueberry Creative's website, so check out the link in the description. You'll get free shipping if you spend $70 or more, and 15% off using my code DAVID on any product that's not already on discount. Now, the latest nationalistic move was fortunately met with mixed responses in China, including from the former top barking dog of the CCP, the Hu Xijin dog. He even came out and suggested that the action committed by Ironhead was not so fitting for this pure nationalistic attempt, or that it's the wrong way to express patriotism. Now, of course, many internet users disagreed with the behavior itself, not because of the behavior, but because of the timing. They say that because China, Japan, and South Korea just held a trilateral summit, that this was the time for sort of a temporary peace rather than trying to rile up nationalism just, shortly after that. So this could backfire in the Japan-China relationship, which is already deteriorating to begin with. So they're not really criticizing the behavior because it's wrong, but they're saying that the timing wasn't right. Still, I'm kind of surprised that I see comments condemning the behavior regardless for what reason. Obviously, people still think that this was wrong in some sense. I also see a lot of comments agreeing and basically praising Ironhead for what he just did. Now, the official stance is quite subtle. They're not going to publicly admit that what he did was right or wrong, but they've censored an article that Hu Xijin wrote condemning the action. And so that tells you exactly what their stance is. And as well as the foreign ministry says that they basically sidestepped the question and started to accuse the Yasukuni Shrine for, praising the war criminals, that is for the invasion, etc., etc. And so, but it does tell you in the subtle sense that they still basically encourage this type of behavior because of the actions they've done. An opportunity free to rile up nationalism in China, and they can micromanage the degree or the information allowed on it. And so far, we haven't seen any censorship on this particular topic. What we've only seen is that any criticism, they've only been censored. And so this actually prompted to a lot of comments saying that what Ironhead did may be radical, may be extreme, but they're not like what's being said by Hu Xijin, who is being now branded as this new age traitor, whatever that means. You spent the last 3-4 decades being the #1 barking dog of the Chinese Communist Party, the former editor-in-chief for the Global Times, which is a English state media paper. And then now you're not radical enough and they start to call you a traitor for basically not being extreme enough to do what Ironhead did in Japan. Clearly, you have never the most radical in the system. It's always the more radical in the system. And regarding Yasukuni Shrine, it's always been a great point for nationalism in China because of the war crimes committed by Japan during World War II. But it's never been purely because Japan is the only country that has committed crimes against China. Take an example with Russia. It killed people across the Amur River. China never mentioned it because the Soviet Union, but now Russia is a key ally. So they would never go and seek out those historical differences. Or in Cambodia with the Khmer Rouge, right? 300,000 Chinese people in Cambodia were murdered. And never hear the CCP talk about that sort of incident, or the fact that they, with Taiwan, this little island in the grand scheme of things, right? It's a piece of land, but it seems like China is so obsessed with it when they've given up so much of the space and the land to Russia. And also, the Yasukuni Shrine was not built for the pure purpose of celebrating or remembering those died in the World War II alone. It was originally built by the Meiji Emperor to remember those that fought for the emperor's right to rule, basically. And this was back in, I think, the 1860s. Now, obviously, I don't see Ironhead being punished back in China. He might face a very light sort of slap on the wrist sort of sentence, but I don't see that happening. But if you do remember, right, the Yasukuni Shrine, what the significance of it to the Japanese people is if Ironhead had done the same thing, peed on the great Heroes and Martyrs monument in the middle of Tiananmen Square, which is this giant monument supposed to commemorate those that fought with their lives for the party. Imagine if he had done the same thing. He peed there, or he wrote toilet on that monument. He would be tried immediately under charges of defaming Heroes and Martyrs, which is an actual charge in China. Japan doesn't have that particular charge, but they have something similar, like a defamation type of charge. So just imagine that's the severity we're dealing with right now. So it's not like he did a very small thing. In the eyes of the Japanese people, this is a big thing. So in the end, right, China will always side with this type of behavior because in the long scheme of things, it encourages and it promotes nationalism, which is something that fits their agenda. And Japan has been the easy target because for so long, people in China, generations after generations, have grown up brainwashed to hate Japan, to hate the United States. And so it's the natural instinct that almost takes over when you're discussing Japan and anything related to Japan. So it's very easy. That's why people in China call it's the secret to internet traffic when you do something with Japan involved. Now the question is, are Chinese people still going to vacation in Japan, dine with all of their seafood and shop in different, cities in Japan? Clearly they will. They will continue to do that. So there's a double standard here, right? Hating Japan for nationalism is like their day job, but enjoying all those freedom and everything else that they couldn't enjoy in China, including a better wage, access to opportunities, well, they're still going to do that in Japan. So yeah, that's basically the irony of the CCP. They have to beg people to make money, and at the same time, they have to basically hold up their nationalistic behaviors just because that's the nature of the Chinese Communist Party. All right, that's it today for the episode on how Ironhead, a Chinese influencer, peed and vandalized the monument in Yasukuni Shrine, and he fled back to China and everything that followed. If you enjoyed the content, leave a like, comment below your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, bye-bye.